Hello, all you friends and internet neighbors. Howdy. How y'all doing? I'm the Subtle Doctor. I'm welcoming you to Stream of Thought, Vinland Saga, Episode 6. We here.
6?
We out here. 6 plus 2 is 8. That's what we're doing. Episode 8. Why did I say episode 6? What the fuck? Yeah.
We're secretly here to do maths with Doc, so I hope you've all got your notepad, your notepads ready, your textbooks. I see you at the back. You did bring your own work in. You will be in detention later.
Gomen nasai. Yeah, episode 8 is actually what we're doing. So, yeah, bad move by me. We're not, in fact, going to talk about old Vinland. We're going to talk about brand new Vinland. It's Viking talk, and we're excited. We're only on Twitch. I see that our usual folks are not yet in chat, and that's probably because, despite announcing it on Twitter and in our Discord, they probably are looking around on YouTube. But we're on Twitch. Hopefully folks get there. The announcement should be in the Discord that we're there. And the VOD will go up on Twitch. I should probably put up a YouTube video about this thing, just to let YouTube people know. I should do that after we get off. Anyway, yada yada. We're here to talk about Vikings. We're here to talk about Canada. And, freedom and daggers and all sorts of other goodness. I actually haven't introduced my shipmate here.
Did you say shitmate then?
Shipmate. I did not say shitmate. I can't help what you're hearing, but I in fact said shipmate. It is the only one of us that actually looks good in a Viking helmet. Mead expert and joystick twiddler Shadon.
Now you're calling me a joystick twiddler. Depending on what community you run in, that could be taken as quite the euphemism.
I know.
I mean, firstly calling me a shitmate, and now you're calling me a wanker. God damn it, Doc.
Am I wrong?
This will not stand.
Am I wrong?
Well, maybe I'll put that up as a Twitch. Sorry, it's a Twitter poll later. We'll let the good folks decide.
Yes. So, I guess we could get right to it here. Episode 8. But well, actually, no. We still have some cleanup to do from episode 7. The polls. We do Twitter polls
we do.
live during our stream each week. And what do the results from the episode 7 polls say?
All right. Well, these polls have not yet quite concluded. They have another day running. So if you do want to, drop your thoughts in, if you've already added them there, please feel free to do so. That is on, our Warui Deshou Twitter. But firstly and foremostly, why was Bjorn eating fish in episode 7 of Vinland Saga? 17% of you said variety, 25% of you said upset stomach, and 58% of you had the correct answer in saying he thought they're mushrooms. Because I like to imagine that Bjorn vision is like everything's a mushroom everywhere all the time. Like Askeladd's telling him to do something, like, go raid that village, and Askeladd just looks like a giant mushroom to him. I can believe it.
Totally.
I can totally believe everything looks like
100%.
Mushrooms to Bjorn all the time. Next poll we did. How hard did the Vikings carrying the boats across the hills rule? 65% said the hardest. 30% said pretty hard. 4% said moderately hard. And 80% said non-hard, didn't rule. Which, in sequence to me, reads like the difficulty levels from Doom, actually, now that I think about it. Maybe I'll put that up next time.
Yes.
And lastly, quite the amazing poll, this one, I must say. With credit to one of our patrons, Fairwolf, for coming up with this. Thank you very kindly.
And also, Blinkaji provided one of the final choice in the poll, I think.
So, yes, that's correct. Blinkaji did provide that indeed. So, title of Askeladd and Bjorn's album, pictured here. We will put the link in the chat shortly. It goes like this. 34% of you said, straight out of Finland. Crazy motherfucker named Askeladd, I suppose. It doesn't really rhyme, but I'm sure that with more time, I'd probably crowbar that in somehow so it fits the tempo of the music. 90% said Odin forgives, we don't.
My pick. It's my favorite.
30% said Bjorn to Mac, and 34% said get rich or die raided. And I've got to say, like, may I offer an explanation for all these? What if they're all albums from Askeladd and Bjorn's group over the course of their career?
It's a discography.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
There you go.
I would buy that. I would. I mean, we all know this isn't the first time that, Askeladd and Bjorn have been taunting a village as they sailed away, covered in their treasure. I'm sure they've had exploits to rap about.
Technically, they've already gone gold, so maybe now it's time for them to go platinum. You know what I mean?
God, almost spit out the Diet Coke. I really did. That's dangerous. Dangerous to do that.
Damn it. Next time. I'll get you next time, man.
All right, so those are the polls. Shadon will be on Twitter during our stream. And it's very hard to multitask, but we're going to try to get polls up as we're talking. If not, then there will be polls up after we conclude the stream. So, briefly here, before we get into our summary time and our discussion time, I think I wanted to take a minute here to highlight creatives behind the episode. So, Beyond the Edge of the Sea is episode 8, Umi no Hate no Hate. And we got, once again, since episode 5, Hiroshi Seko has been writing with Kenta Ihara. They're both
furiously, just both of them jamming multiple keyboards simultaneously.
They are the
stumps.
It's a two-headed head writer monster. Both of them have
a chimeric entity.
Exactly. Yes, an eldritch typewriter creature. He is writing these episodes. So the episode director, though, we have Tomoaki Koshida. So Koshida has one of the it's one of those CVs, right? It's one of those it's kind of a mixed bag.
I just had to make money. For God's sake, don't judge me for putting food on the table.
I mean, you're right about this, right? This is correct.
Oh, you can totally judge him. Don't let me stop. I'm just throwing out more of an excuse on his behalf as to why, their behalf as to why they would otherwise do some of the stuff they've done. Believe me, having researched Mal recently on a certain project and found out about the talents involved with that, everyone has got something that they would rather not talk about in their past. So, I can kind of understand it. Doesn't mean I'm going to laugh about it, of course, but,
Well, so here's some of the highlights, of the CV. So Koshida has been either an episode director or a storyboarder for everything on their Anime News Network CV. So they found their lane and they're sticking to it. It looks like they've only been the head director of a property for one project, and that's Zoku Token Rambu Hanamaru Season 2. But other than that, we've got episode direction from Symphogear. Great show. Episode 2. Okay. We got episode direction from Kiss X Sis. Episode 10. Haven't seen it. Heard it wasn't a great show.
Don't intend to anytime soon. And don't any of you patrons of ours be getting any ideas now.
What? Yeah, I know.
I'm just saying. Just saying.
Gotta keep our cards to our chest more on this stuff.
Oh, who am I kidding? Someone's gonna go and request that now. Of course they are.
A couple interesting Sunrise properties are here. We got Gundam Reconquista in G, sort of Yoshiyuki Tomino, original creator director of Gundam, jumping back in a couple of years ago into the world of Gundam and making this thing that was received kind of poorly by the general audiences, but it has its fans. Koshida did a storyboard for one episode and was unit director on 4 different episodes, including the penultimate one. And then Classicaloid, a show that your friend and mine, Jimmy Gnome, friend of the pod from back in the day, he loves Classicaloid, and I really like it too. I haven't finished seeing it, but are you familiar with the premise of Classicaloid, Shadon?
I suppose you're about to tell me. Hit me, Doc. Lay it on me what this classical show, quote unquote, is all about.
Okay, high school students Kanai and Sosuke live in a provincial town that's trying to revitalize itself with music. One day, suddenly, Classicaloid versions of Beethoven and Mozart appear in front of them.
Oh, God, no, you've mentioned it. I remember now. Yeah.
Mozart rides a skateboard, and Beethoven has like a robot. It's really great.
It's Fate. So hold on. No, it's Fate Grand Opera.
Mm-hmm. That's brilliant.
Nailed it.
It is.
Nailed it.
It is, but it's less conflict battle based. It's not as heavy and dark as Fate. It's much more lighthearted, very colorful and bright. It has really good representation gender and the full spectrum thereof.
Does it also do the Fate thing of gender bending the heroic spirits? Is Mozart a woman?
Yes.
How did I know? How did I
yes.
know? How did I know? How the fuck did I know?
Not all of them. I actually don't know that. I can't remember. It really has been. I've only seen like an episode or two, and it's been 3 years.
Does Beethoven go, Senpai, help me finish my symphony?
Beethoven's a dude, I'm pretty sure. I think it's just Mozart that is...
I'm too suspicious of this shit, trust me.
No, it's actually good. It's actually good. And I believe Mozart is still a boy, so I don't know if it does gender bend them. Mozart is just a very cute, kind of effeminate skateboarder boy, if I recall correctly. You got Bach, Chopin, Schubert... I'm ignoring your Avril Lavigne reference intentionally.
Hey, that's technically music. It's on brand for what we're discussing. Give me some credit for it.
Music. Yeah, so we could run down the rest of Kushida C, but you get the idea. It's kind of like, for every Classicaloid, there's a Fantasia doll kind of situation. But I think this is one of the good ones that he's done here. Episode 8 of Vinland Saga. Oh boy. Okay. We've done Twitter already, so I guess now it falls on me to do the summary. Thank you for downloading the Twitch app.
Thank you, Felix,
for just to watch our ridiculous streams. Hopefully, the rest of our usual audience can make the transition, because this is where we're going to be for a couple months. Thanks, YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, okay. Quick summary here of The Ocho, Episode 8, Vinland Saga.
That's probably actually one of the most appropriate times to make the Ocho joke, given that there is, well... I'll spoil now, folks. This is the episode in which the duel between Thorfinn and Askeladd happens. And I just want to ask Doc, and I don't know if he'll actually be able to do it or not, but I want him to describe the duel as if he's commentating a wrestling match. I know I'm dropping that on you cold, but I'm just going to put that out there, and you may do with it as you wish.
Okay. Well, when we get to that portion, I will do it. I'm going to pull up the episode, and we're gonna go with this. If you could, while I'm summarizing other bits, if you could find a timestamp and tell me what part of the episode it begins, so I can quickly skip there, then I will definitely do it. But let's talk very quickly about some stuff that happens before. Okay, first of all, how do you pronounce the slave girl, the former noblewoman's name? Because to me, it sounds like they're saying Horsland.
You're on farm for getting these names, so you called me a shit, mate. And now you're going with Horsland.
It sounds like Horsland when they say it out loud, but is it Horde?
Well, Well, as
Heimlich?
written, I've actually found the frame in which her name is first mentioned. So, according to the subtitles, it's Hordaland.
But what does it sound like to you when you hear it in your ears?
Uh,
Rozuland.
Quite possibly, but I'll just go with Hordaland for now.
Horde. The Horde.
Yeah,
We'll call her the
Hordaland,
Horde.
the new loot shooter out from Gearbox, but it's just saying Viking times instead of in like some crazy space base.
You're right. Horde mode, everyone's favorite Gears of War mode. That's what the. I was gonna make a Vigilante 8 joke for some reason. I wrote down up here. I guess because VI and then 8 made me think of. But you know what? No one played that game, so I just won't make that joke. I'll just skip right on. So. Our boys, your favorite, crew of ne'er-do-wells and troublemakers, are coming back home, or at least to a port of call that they're familiar with. So Askeladd, Bjorn, and friends sail in to this place. Askeladd meets with a guy that he calls Uncle. Okay, just gonna let that ring. I think it's a telemarketer. I wish there was like a button I could push on this phone to make it stop, but I don't think I can.
Is he calling to sell you the fastened up sheep that they're getting on the shoreline?
Yep, that's right.
Fed them on grass all year. If it's good enough for pirates, it's good enough for you, son.
Yeah. So they make a point of showing the sheep. But anyway, they come in and Askeladd talks to the uncle, right? And the uncle's like, you got a lot of men here, a lot of people I don't know. Like, it costs money for the pork and the beer. And Askeladd's like, look.
I mean, Askeladd, have you ever played a 4X game? You gotta manage your resources, bro.
Exactly. You gotta go mine some crystals before you come in here. And Askeladd's like, look, we've been mining crystals all year. I got you. I've got that paper. Clunk. He's like holding, necklaces and jewels, like twirling them around. It's like, yeah, we good. Feed us well, and I'll pay you. And the old man's like, that's what I wanted to hear. Ha ha. And so, Scrooge McViking is there, like looking into his like coin. And Askeladd's like, do you just love money this much? And he's like, oh, yes. Just looking at it makes me so horny. And that's not what he says, but he might as well say that, right? And and then he takes a moment to, heap abuse on Horde, right? Because he tells her to go bring something, and she just kind of stands there. And he's like, woman, what are you doing? Bring the booze, or whatever. Get with it. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. And then he's just like, useless girl. She's terrible. She's used to be a rich lady, and now she's good for nothing. And Askeladd is basically like, well, and he looks out the window at Thorfinn and says, you can make use of anyone with the right approach. And Gorm. No, Gorm. Like,
is that where the English expression of being gormless comes from?
I wonder.
Which is to basically say someone's completely empty and vacuous head, like, stop being so gormless.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. So
I'm always giving you more of the English vernacular.
I know. I like this. I like this. It's football season again is in full swing over there, so I'm listening to more podcasts from you folks, and it's good to know terms in case they come up in the discourse. Let's see, where was I? Right. And he, Askeladd says, like, you can make use of anybody. And then he tells the uncle, Uncle Gorm, come sit on your Uncle Gorm's knee. Come, I'll tell you the stories of the time. You know that...
I have to intervene now that you said that, because there was something I was going to bring up, and you've actually just given me the perfect segue for it. I don't know why, but every time I see Askeladd in full profile, and he's wearing this like red coat, I keep thinking he's Santa. I can't get it out of my head. It just makes him look like Santa Claus, just, not quite as old.
Laddie Claus. Oh boy. And what did you get for Christmas? Another leg of lamb.
A 16-year-old punk kid who keeps trying to kill me.
And you, young boy, you get a dagger, so you can kill your own foes too, just like me. Ask your claw. So, yeah.
No, Thorfinn finally gets a jewel for Christmas, to be fair.
That's right. Yes. Okay. You've been
a good boy, slaughtering and murdering for me. Even though I've tried to get you killed many times. Why not? I was going to give you a lump of coal anyway, so you might as well have this. Go on, lad.
Most people leave me milk and cookies. You left me a severed head. Just what I like. You get a duel, sir. So, yeah, he tells Uncle Gorm, right, like, I got this duel, I need you to be my witness. And so we come to the duel. Have you got a timestamp for me for the episode?
I will grab it now. Well, if you want it exactly when it begins, it's... Just going through here. Here we go. 7 minutes and 42 seconds.
Okay, duel commentary time. All right. Let me mute this here. All right. Hajime, they've begun. Thorfinn crouches, takes a ready stance. He is reflexes like a cat, ready to spring into action at any time. He's the shorter, but he looks like he has the quickness advantage. His weapons, good for close combat. If he manages to, with his superior speed, inch in and get some CQC happening with Askeladd, he could do some real damage. Askeladd not appearing to take him seriously. Oh, and there's a swipe to the face. Askeladd just able to dodge. He's fighting him off. Excellent defense by the lad. Thorfinn, pressure continuing to mount. Swiping, and the counterattack. Thorfinn just barely gets out of range of the sword, leaping back, able to stay out of harm's way. And here we have the spectators. We see some camera shots. Bjorn, ever the proud surrogate papa, knows what's up. And we have the annoying kid down there who thinks he could actually hang, is very surprised. Askeladd now fully on guard, ready to rock. Swords up. Thorfinn, sizing up his opponent, rushes in for the second time. Clang, and with swords meet, it looks like... Oh, he's disarmed him! He's disarmed Askeladd! What a shot! It's happening right now. Oh, but no! And a grapple was missed. Thorfinn, very wary of Askeladd's superior grappling skills, got the fuck out of there before he could do the damage. Askeladd retrieving his arm, looking ever confident here. Oh no, darkness has descended upon us. The studio. All right. Askeladd, looking very, very annoyed with Thorfinn. And here it comes. We knew the one place Askeladd has the truest advantage, apart from power, in which he has a slight one, is experience. Askeladd, clearly trying to rile up our kid Thorfinn, using, the memory of his late father to shake him up. And he's saying he can't remember his name, trying to, again, just fuck with the kid. Lots of talking here. Thorfinn very angry. His eyes have gone away for some reason. They've ceased to be drawn on his face. Nothing but a shadow. Calls him a bastard. We need to, you know what, mute children could be watching this. Please bleep that out. Askeladd knows he's won now. You can see it on his face. He's done it. He has, and Thorfinn are reliving the unfortunate moment in which his dad died. And now he's done it. Askeladd crossed the line, calling him an idiot who would try to save a kid's life, sacrifice his own life for a kid. And there it is. The judo flip of doom. Askeladd has won. Thorn.
3, 2, 1, pinned. It's over. It's over. The world championship belt goes to Askeladd.
All right. Boo. Boo. Oh, Thorfinn in the prone position, and Askeladd just doing insult to injury by breaking his arm before
He's
walking
more like
away
Thor
victorious.
finished, am I right, bro?
Heyo. Finish him. Oh my god. So yeah, that was the duel. Whew. That happened. That was the thing. And I think we'll probably touch on Bjorn there in the crowd and Askeladd and kind of what they were about. I thought that was really interesting. So, after this, I mean, what better way to commemorate the victorious duel than to have a feast? Am I right? You know, so there's a feast. People are eating, drinking. The really annoying kid, walks up to Askeladd and he's like, trying to get in good with him and start a conversation. You got, Gorm being an asshole, beating Horde again for accidentally dropping some things, and no one really do anything about it, but Askeladd definitely, sort of embarrassed for Gorm. I mean, you can kind of just he tells the kid, look at this motherfucker right here. Am I right? Who thinks that he's the master and that she's the slave when, she only is here because of his money and money is his master. And Askeladd looks down his nose at that kind of relationship to wealth. But he also admits to the kid that everybody is the slave of something. We all have our master. And Thorfinn is absent the feast. His arm's broken, for one. And for two, he just wants to sit on his ship and eat and not, be with people that murdered his dad. Understandable choice.
Yeah, bit awkward to sit at the dinner table with the person who murdered your father, especially after he's just beaten you in a duel.
Again. Yeah.
I mean, I could just see Thorfinn now, his full-size dagger just stabbing into sausages repeatedly, and Bjorn going over and he goes, not hungry, and he goes like that repeatedly. Oh, he's hungry for something. He's hungry for murder.
Indeed.
Unfortunately, as Askeladd has pointed out, though, I'm not afraid of him trying to kill me in my sleep. This is the thing we actually addressed in the previous episode, because Askeladd knows that Thorfinn thinks of himself as a warrior and therefore must fight with honor and dignity in, the rules of combat in a duel, as opposed to, just slitting his throat when he sleeps or, doing the old toaster in the tub thing. I mean, admittedly, that might not have been possible in Viking era. Right. I don't exactly remember when the toaster was invented, but yeah, there's certainly opportunities for him to murder Askeladd in his sleep. Thorfinn can't do it, which is something I'll address later. But anyway.
Yeah. Askeladd tells that nameless, annoying kid that Thorfinn is, bound by his pride. And so that's why he's not worried about taking him on the journey. So then we get Thorfassa, right? The ghost of Thor's Fossa, I guess then it would be, appearing to Thorfinn on his ship, right? The ship that he's sitting on to eat his dinner is his dad's old ship, which this lot still has. And so, the ghost of his dad appears before him, and it's like he's a little boy again. He's crying. His dad tells him, cry baby, and kind of tousles his hair. It's a very touching moment. And tells him, you get the feeling that this is not the first conversation they've had, because he's I've told you before, don't seek revenge. That's not something you need to be doing. But I could tell you that a million times and it wouldn't make a difference. But remember that... I'm sorry, you go ahead.
I was going to say, these seem like an amalgamation of things that Thors has told Thorfinn before, plus projections of what he thinks he would say. Kind of a blend of the two. It certainly is not Thors' actual ghost there.
You don't
He's
think...
not fully, no, it's not the actual ghost. So, I know. I mean, I got my peak Amy around everything, and it was going up nothing.
That's right. No, Ghost Radar didn't give a blip. Nothing.
Nope, not a thing.
Yeah. He tells him, that the stuff again about not having any natural enemies. And what you might think for a split second is Thor's hand resting on Thorfinn's shoulder. It actually turns out to be Hord, and when Thorfinn feels it, he takes a swipe at her with his dagger, and I think we should actually, after this scene, I think we should start calling Horde Relina Peacecraft, because I feel like this is
that's my God.
She's like become infatuated with the person that, I'm not saying he's going to try to kill her a bunch of times like here, but he tried to kill her, and that seems like...
I can understand his reaction, though. He's living amongst a bunch of fucking pirates, one of whom he tried to kill earlier.
Well, yeah, naturally.
And he's half asleep. It's not like he's at her birthday party saying he's going to fucking murder her.
Such a
and
great
she was
part.
not there to do anything to him. She was just giving him food. That's a harsh comparison. Although, again, this is just poisoning.
I'm just gonna say that if he did not make a swipe at her and he just took the food and was like, thanks, she would have left. But I feel like her interest is piqued by him because of that display of murderous power on his part. She's like, oh, you were going to kill me. That's kind of hot. Do you want to talk?
Do you want... No, I'm not making that joke.
Oh yeah, no. This is
there's plenty of jokes I could make, but I'm gonna restrain my.
This is a Gundam Wing. This is a Gundam Wing reference. The main female character for over half the show is obsessed with this dude who tries to kill her multiple times.
And he's also a colossal shithead, the dude in question.
No question.
Because honestly, like at this point, I think the vast majority of anime I've ever watched basically say like, women, you know how you like your guys, complete wankers.
Yep. And she's definitely. We'll see if there's more to her. I mean, this is Vinland Saga. This isn't fucking run of the mill anime. This is fucking Vinland Saga.
Yeah.
So
she isn't villager female villager number 2, 3, 5, 6. Generic standard. White with blonde hair class.
This is not Kasai we're talking about here from Given.
Oh God.
This is hopefully like a character that we will see, 3 dimensions of her, and she'll be interesting and have depth. But this moment just made me laugh because it made me think of freaking Relina, who I've not thought about him for. Hero, I'm right over here, so come and kill me. Like, this is what she's saying, like in the dub, like on a cliff overlooking the sea.
Is that how Horda's gonna, tempt Thorfinn to come to Vinland? She's just gonna project her voice halfway across the earth to him. I'm right over here on Vinland's shores. Come and get me. And he's like, fucking going. I'm going.
Hang on, I've only got a dagger. I'm coming. I'm rowing as fast as I can. So, like, there's Horde, like, when she gives him the food, he eats his rolls and whatever you have ravenously as he can with one hand. And, like, she says to him, are you like me? Like, we seem the same. And Thorfinn, of course, is offended by this. Like, I'm not a slave. What you talking about? I'm a warrior.
Tell me
Baby,
more, Thorfinn.
I can eat wherever I want.
Tell me more.
I'll eat out here because I choose to. Right?
I mean, in other news, I totally have a full flowing head of hair. I promise you, it's right down to just below my shoulders, and it is the silkiest fucking shit you have ever seen. I mean, if Thorfinn can make up complete bullshit, so can I. But we'll address that in a bit.
Okay. I could do what I want. And she's like, oh, well, we seem similar to me. And, she's confiding kind of in him, I guess, because she feels that kind of kinship of some sort that, look, she knows she's a slave. She could run away. She could go wherever she wanted to. She could, go to the far ends of the world. But, she wouldn't be able to escape like the fact that there's inequality in the world, there's brutality, tyranny, slavery, like all these things. It's almost like they follow you, like but they're just ever present. There's not a physical location that you could go to that you would, be out from under these things.
Except, folks, I can't currently hear Doc appear, so we've had some sort of technical difficulty.
Oh, okay. Can you not hear me? Can the stream hear me? Because on OBS I've got my bars.
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay, perfect, cool. Okay, no idea what happened there. I hope everybody can still hear me, because my wave level is still on OBS. Maybe it was just a Discord issue for a minute.
Yeah, I think maybe your central process was malfunction. You were revealing you really were, cyborg, metal endoskeleton with a tissue overlay.
Yeah, I think it is. I think this is a Discord issue. Let me restart our call.
No, you're back to normal. We can continue.
But you are freezing.
All
right. So let me just we'll try to restart our call really quick here. Can you hear me?
All right.
All right.
Yes.
We're back. And you're not freezing, so I think you're okay. All right. Our call looks to be back online. All right. Viking time once again. Well, she says all this, okay? But Thorfinn's like, actually, the Great Valley is a place where no sharp tooth can get... he says, actually, Canada. We can go to Vinland. It's to the west. It's warm. Nobody will find you. You could escape there. It's all good. And she's like, really? And you think I'm deluded? But
here's the travel brochure. We've got a full suite of package holidays for you here, all-inclusive hotel deals. You can even visit a casino, go see the Great Lakes. It's going to be fantastic. Again, maybe I don't have quite my history right here. Surely that must have been a thing back then.
We got exactly. We got the 5-star package, right? You can have a hut next to Leif Erikson, and also other Twitch influencers of your choice.
Maybe it turns out that Leif is actually running an Airbnb in Finland.
You know it. This was a cool moment when they were talking about this, because they were surrounded by like heavy blizzard. The wind, the snow was all around them, much like the inescapable, like, inequality, tyranny, brutality, like Horde was talking about. But the shot transitions and the music begins to swell as the camera like pans up from the ocean to a sunny day with birds. So maybe this is like a little bit of a everything is really dark and it seems pretty hopeless, but maybe there's just a little hope around the corner at the next dawn. But when it does fade into this next scene, it's we see Canute, is it? Canute, the prince, the Viking prince guy with the helmet.
Could possibly be. I'm sure we'll find out more in the coming episodes.
Yeah, so he's hanging out. It's springtime again.
Standing stoically, watching over the sea. Like, well, I've got nothing else to do but pose. I might as well pose for a bit.
If you're gonna pose, like, fucking do it. And he's like nailing it.
Well, he ain't T-posing himself, so that's something.
Right. So, this is Canute, and he's like the heir to the king's throne, we find out in a minute. But the king has survived. The king has fucking lived through the winter. And it's springtime, so it's time to march again. And the camp that we see here, I think, is notable for... one, the fucking CBS logo shields The Illuminati eyeball, the stupid shields, again, are back from the Yorm's Vikings. And also, their flag is like a dragon puppy. Like, it's supposed to be a dragon, but it looks like a really tiny, cuddly dragon with, like, a leash on it. And it looks like
Who's that Pokemon?
Yeah, exactly. It's Dragonite, the tiny version. And I must say, in the scene, Floki looks old. He looks so old.
How old was that?
Old.
That was quite
old. So old.
Fucking ancient.
I mean, his face is like a fucking.
I knew the Vikings would become. I mean, the Vikings would become like ancient history, but he didn't need to preempt that by looking that fucking old. God damn, man! Get some Just for Men. Sort your fucking wrinkles out.
He does need some cream. Surely, like one of the towns that he's raided, he could have found some cream for his face, some kind of concoction to prevent just him looking.
I have traveled far and wide in search of the legendary elixir known as Botox. Where will I find this strange concoction?
Villagers, bring out your witch doctor, your medicine man. Have ye Neutrogena? Have ye L'Oreal? No? Off with their heads. Yeah, I mean, it must be in short supply, because seriously, he's like a chiseled raisin. Just, but yeah, so they're gonna fight, they're gonna march, and we get a little bit of a time skip, because like the encampment is like we see in the spring, and then it goes like, you know, the arrow follows along the map like it's a intro of like a Fire Emblem game or some other tactics RPG. It's like the Vikings marched through all of England, crushing everyone until they got to London, and that's kind of it. Like apparently London resists. Oh yeah, we see Blinkaji's favorite guy,
Thorkel.
Thank you, Thorkel.
Who we've seen previously in episode 1. He was fighting with Thors in the one of the earlier battles. Okay,
yes. I was like, for a minute there, I was like, did Askeladd start wearing a headband? Like,
well, I wonder about that. But we'll find out, I'm sure, later. We can speculate about that another time. But yeah, otherwise, yes. I will say though, Thorkel, he's got a mighty strong throwing arm.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Eat your heart out, Kratos. Like, it's just, yeah. He's the one scene that we get to see him in is quite a violent one, where he throws his hatchet axe thing.
Yeah.
And takes out like 3 guys.
Yep, he got the Unreal Tournament Ultra Kill noise to play.
Mm-hmm. Killing spree. So that's it. I mean, those are by and large the events of episode 8 here. Shadon, I'm gonna turn it over to you so we can get our discussion started.
Sounds good to me. All right, so let's talk about parallels, because holy shit, there's plenty of parallels to derive from this particular episode. The first one, and probably the most obvious one that I suspect you've all spotted, is that when we see the episode starts off with the sheep being looked after by the 2 people on the cliff, you've got the children running around the village that Gorm runs. You've got Askeladd's girly fan club. All sorts of shit. Like, it's a normal life, fan club not included, really, for the people who live there, including presumably Askeladd when he's not away pillaging and plundering and all that. But that's the point. It is a normal life for them here. Like, they live a life not too dissimilar, I would argue, environment notwithstanding, from the life Thors and his family and the villages that they live with had. It's just unfortunate that Askeladd and his men, they provide for their particular village through piracy, murder, pillaging, thievery, you name it. But nonetheless, it's clear, that it's like that old, the Nazi man, does the awful things that, the camps and all that, but then goes home to the loving wife and daughter, and how does that work? But yeah, that's an obvious parallel there that between that and the previous time, but it goes beyond that. So we have scenes later on this episode that are of the King of Denmark and his various cronies getting ready to invade England, to shut the insolent English up, for whatever reason that is. But here's the thing, right? No
one likes football.
Well, hey, of all of us on this podcast, it's you who actually likes it, not me, and I'm actually English, so someone's got to fill it, I guess.
What if it was they just, like, were so deeply offended by cricket? They were like, we must kill them.
Beats me. Maybe they wanted to recreate, like a jokes about on Twitter, the lyrics of Clash's London Calling.
There you go. Yep.
I mean, Humberside is mentioned in that particular song, which is, yes. So, hey, there you go. But anyway, why do I bring this up? Because if you think about it, the entirety of Denmark doing this invasion of England on the King's orders is actually not really different, on conceptually at least, to what Askeladd has been doing with his pirates. Just on a grander scale with a lot more people and government sanction. But regardless, both of them are involved in, if not the expansion, at least the sustaining of their societies, be it the village or the country as a whole, through, the mass murder and mass exploitation and robbery of other peoples. And it just, by that comparison, it goes to show that kind of, attitude of aggressive expansionism in order to, fuel and, keep your own economy and your own country and way of life going, is basically piracy. It's no better than it morally or ethically. Now, that might seem obvious, of course, but if there's one thing that I think Vinland Saga is leading towards, and this is why it's in this particular point in history, is even as long ago as that, how many examples are between then and now of where colonialism and, aggressive, invasion and plundering of other lands was committed in the name of just simply, expansion. Like, the king is basically no better than Askeladd. Indeed, if you think about it, put your mind back to episode 7. What was Askeladd wearing when he had stolen all of that shit from the French village? A crown and all sorts of other crap. They're no different conceptually as people. Mm-hmm. The only difference is one of them is a king and one of them's a pirate. So I really like that. I like that, it was willing to tear down that understanding that, governments and all this, militaristic expansion kind of thing, it's no better. It's like war has already been depicted as a stupid, pathetic thing throughout the show's run. Mm-hmm. But this just also again goes to show that kind of thing, even if it's officially sanctioned by a government, makes no difference. You're still a pirate.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, right? That often like isolated cultures can be myopic. When there's not a multicultural kind of not a way to have that kind of experience. Like, it's really easy to be like, well, like, our stories, our narratives, our kind of moral categories, like, that's all we know. Like, there's not really a way to kind of think outside of them. Like, they can't have like a global perspective or whatever. It's just like, well, we good, they bad, yay Odin.
Yeah, indeed, the reasons the king specifies we're going to invade England are never really given. Because fuck it, why do I need a reason? I want to go plunder and pillage and kill and expand and, have all their wealth and their arable land,
give me that.
Their men, their cattle, you fucking name it.
Yeah.
I want it, and that is reason enough for me to take it.
Yeah, we have no idea, like, if there's, like, some kind of famine or something, you know what I mean? That would, like, not justify, but at least there will be some kind of reason. Like, well, they need, like, resources or whatever. Like, we have no idea. It as far as we know, it's just, like, a fucking... And I'm sure we could just go look in a history book, and there's one of our patrons who has done this sort of thing is probably going to be mad listening to this, that I don't know offhand what the reason is.
Well, even then, if it's not stated, I think that's intentional.
Yeah, it's okay.
Again, I just said before about historical accuracy. Even if there was a reason that they were driven to do this kind of thing, and missing it from Vinland Saga, I think, is a good thing, because I don't think that this is justifiable. I don't think trying to diminish that through saying, well, they were starving over there or some shit, helps the story. It kind of takes away from it.
No, I hear you.
But I want to ask you a question about something that I do think might diminish the story, actually. Oh. So we're already about a third of the way into the show's run at this point, and it's quite clear that, war is bad. We've got Edwin Starship going on, and particularly the kind of aggressive, pillage, plunder, steal, devour the resources of the land and its peoples kind of thing is awful, and it shouldn't be done. I have a question for you, and I'm going to put this in the poll in a minute as well, so stay tuned for this, folks. Do you think that the power of this message is diminished given it's set in, Viking and Norse times, and given every single historical event of that happening later on between now and when this show was made happened, like, colonial America or, the British Empire? Like, this is bad, but it happened anyway, whoops.
I don't follow you.
Like, Vinland Saga, they're going to go Vinland at some point, which is America, and then they're going to try and, not have a repeat of the things they've had before, like Thorfinn breaking out his revenge thing, trying to escape from piracy and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like, what happens to America in actual history after the timeline of this show is, colonialism,
right,
exploitation of lands and people. So any message this show will give of, like, Thorfinn eventually triumphing over that and, like, keeping a peaceful home for himself in a foreign land that doesn't exploit or, ruin the lives of native people and like. I feel will ring a little hollow because the actual history doesn't bear that out. It feels kind of futile.
So I guess my initial thoughts on that are that I think that is sort of the point. Like, I think the message is descriptive and not prescriptive about this sort of thing. Like, I think what Horde is saying, you could kind of take at face value as the show's point of view. At least this is how I see it right now. That actually, like, all this sort of awful, like, cruel, inhumane stuff, like, it is the world. It is all around us. And, Thorfinn kind of getting out of that, like, and finding some peace for himself somehow, I think is going to be, like, what the show's about. And on an individual humans kind of transcending that awfulness. Much
so
more
it's
so
micro versus macro then, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think the show is about changing the macro. The macro feels too big to be changed. And like you said, there's all this history that we know it happened, and I feel like the messaging up to this point is, you might be like, well, why? If there's not the ability to change it, like, why are they even talking about it? Why the anti-war message? Well, because there have been societies like the Vikings, and there still are people to this day that want to kind of glorify it and, like, kind of co-opt war as something, this kind of great making enterprise for political reasons, religious reasons, yada yada.
Resources, Iraq.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
But
so it's not even like it's ancient history. It's very recent.
Yeah, I think the prescriptive part of it is the like ripping down that facade of it as anything but an awful, inhumane thing. But it's not like, oh, it's. I think the show might be saying, like, yes, see it for what it is, because it's gonna kind of be everywhere, and there's not really too much on a macro level that can be done.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like, just to speak hypothetically here, there are certainly a lot of advantages to doing a story like this in the setting it's in, where it has that historic basis, even if it's not necessarily totally accurate. I mean, unless, some crazy shit happens now where someone finds, like, a dagger with 2 arrow runes on it, and then, so it's like, hey, this kid was, like, 17 when he died, but it appears he might have murdered someone before, it turns out Thorfinn is actually real. Obviously not. But there is certainly advantages doing that. Stories like that, including just the fact that, it's refreshing to have something that is set in that particular time period from a Japanese author as well. But if I were to throw this completely out there, imagine if Vinland Saga was not based in historical, or a foundation thereof of history, but rather was completely fictional, like, say, Berserk. Berserk, Midland isn't a real place, even though it has the trappings of English castles and, like, that kind of thing, and even a bit of the old French thing going on, blah blah blah. Or even if you wanted to go even further than that and turn it into something that's set ostensibly in the future from our time, make it a sci-fi thing. I don't know. Why am I telling you all this? Why am I speculating on this when that's not what we got? Because those kind of things exist in a otherworldliness that's separate from our own reality, where, like, Vinland Saga currently exists in, because it's actually based on quite a substantial amount of actual history and enough trappings of it to make it feel not non-fictional, of course,
right?
But that it is, tied into events in history that we can accept, and then it follows those events lead into our regular timeline from there on. And that's why I think that the macro message of, all this stuff being like, awful and terrible would be better served in a disconnected, like, fictional world, be it fantasy or sci-fi. Because then it, leaves us open to the idea that it's something that we can achieve, as opposed to being set in the definitive time that Vinland Saga is set in, where we know that there's plenty of horrible shit that follows in the hundreds of years between, like, the 1013 point which London is invaded to present day.
Yeah, I just don't think it's about achieving anything, was my point. I thought, that it was a sort of meant to be descriptive. But I mean, I see what you mean. I guess, God, I forget who, someone was talking about this. God damn it, I can't remember who, because it wasn't, God, I can't remember, but anyway, I was reading, this author was talking about this. Maybe it was N.K. Jemisin on Twitter, but they were saying there was a discussion about fantasy allegory and, like, like a bunch of nerds doing awful shit, like harassing people, having, like, shitty views, like ethno-nationalist or alt-right, or being, misogynist, racist, all these, like, shitty things. And but they like all these fantasy properties that promote the opposite of all that. And someone was saying, like, oh, like, well, why, like, I don't understand. And the author was like, basically, like, it's too dissociative. Like, they're not going to take from that allegory what you want, because it is set in a fantasy world that's not our own. So, like, it's important to, like, have these kind of messages put inside our own world. But then people are going to whine and cry that they're political, when if you took them out and put them in a fantasy world, they wouldn't be seen as that, because they're in a fantasy world. The point I guess I'm trying to make is, like, maybe it's good that it is in the real world. Maybe it will help the poignancy of the descriptive part of the message, of all parts of the message.
Yeah, I think that it's not a message I'm saying that we should never make or not continue to make. It's certainly something that we should learn from and continue to be told about, given, again, events that happened in this actual century thus far that show that, like I mentioned with Iraq. But like I say, for me, if that's the message it's trying to go for, then, well, things don't end well in actual Vinland in America after that point, when when the show concludes, like, and maybe Thorfinn looks off into the sunset. Finally, freedom, a land of tolerance, and, where no one is truly hunted or exploited. Oh, shit. Reminds me of that episode from The Simpsons where they did the retelling of the 12 Plagues of Egypt, Moses and the Pharaoh, where I think it's Milhouse says to Bart, like, oh, look, like, we Jewish people are free. We're in the desert now. It's great. So what's next? And he goes, 40 years of wandering for nothing. And I was like, oh, it's plain sailing for the Jews after that, right? Isn't it? And Bart's just like, yeah, let's just go.
I think we might be taught, like, well, I guess, yeah, I'm just saying that I don't think the story is, how do I say this in a way that's different than I've said it?
I suppose it'll depend on how it plays out, to be quite honest, because I must stress, like, we're only 8 episodes in. I'm getting ideas of what it wants to say, but let's see how it concludes on those ideas first, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that the fact that history turned out the way it did, it matters to what the story's trying to do. I think, again, that it is being only descriptive about how awful war is. So, like, the fact that it continues on isn't, like, a detriment to what it's trying to do. I also think, like, it's my speculation that we may get a, like, Vinland is in your heart message. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, because
it's like Disneyland.
Because if it does do the whole, like, well, if we go to this latitude and longitude, I did the wrong ones, latitude, longitude. and we get to Vinland, then no war. We'll fight. Like I think that is less interesting and kind of it seems that seems to really kind of less than what the show is capable of doing. You know, I don't think it's going to be like this is the place that's, you know, free of that. I think it will be more of an internal thing and will be about individuals transcending
an ideal to strive towards rather than necessarily achieving, perhaps.
Yeah, I just don't think it's going to be about building a society of peaceful people. Like it's So let me ask you a question. This is more related to what we were talking about last week. And I thought, you know, now would be a good time to revisit it. Like, so last week I was talking about liking Askeladd, and then you said, did Griffith do anything wrong? And I thought that was rather unfair, right?
I was joking. I wasn't being that seriously.
I know, but like...
we all...
No, sorry, go ahead.
No, you have to.
Just because, like... No, obviously, yes, you were kidding. Like, we have... I think you and I are in agreement that the idea that you can only like characters that are good boys is silly. You know, there are tons of flawed characters, anti-heroes, even like evil characters and villains that, I mean, we're doing fiction, right? You can like them. Like, it's fine. It doesn't mean liking a character doesn't mean like you endorse their behavior or even want to be friends with them or any stupid bullshit like that. So like, and you mentioned in Discord that you thought actually it was an issue liking Askeladd, right? Because of what the show is doing. And I was wondering if you could elaborate on that.
Okay, so this is again a function, I think, of the issues I discussed last time, in that episode 7 really should be episode 1, and all the other episodes after that point should be +1 onwards. Because the show is trying to get you on board with all the awesome shit that happens in that episode, and what Askeladd is doing, and giving one up to Jabba, as I've said. But that's again overshadowed because of the order in which these events occur, by the fact that, oh yeah, Thorfinn wants him dead because he did kill his father, and he's also been doing other awful shit. Like, we know that. And that's why my complaint was I felt that it shouldn't have been done out of order, because I think that it was very intentionally set up, even down to the language the characters speak and the details we get in the order of the episode, to build up to that layer. You're like, oh, Askeladd's awesome, and I'm like, oh, actually, wait, no, he's not. He's a shithead.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean you can't think what he does is awesome, but it's very deliberately framed in such a way as to get you on board and then tear that down, as opposed to being in this sequential order now it is, where it's building him up. It's taking you out of alignment with Thorfinn's perspective, which is always, you know, like, he's awful and terrible. Now, audience disconnect from character perspective is not necessarily a bad thing. But I think that in the case of, like, that being Thorfinn's primary goal at the moment, we may not necessarily have to hate Askeladd as much as he does.
Yeah.
But we need to be in alignment or agreement with his general goal. And the show was deliberately working against that, because its events were out of order from the original manga.
I don't know if
I get why they did it.
I don't know if we have to be in alignment with his perspective. I think it's fine. I mean, like, I think as long as we understand it, and it has been made abundantly clear why he wants him to die, and that he should, and right, and that it would be just and right for him to die because he's bad. But I think that doesn't preclude us being like, he's like, you know, a shithead that I enjoy watching do his thing.
Yeah. No, that's not what I said. What I said was that the show was fucking up.
Oh, I see. I see what you mean.
Yeah, that was not my personal, like, my personal point. Like, I can certainly get behind the event. Like, I thought the Viking stuff, like with the boats, was awesome. I mean, you heard my jokey description about it.
Yes.
Clearly I did.
Yeah.
But the reason I made those jokey descriptions, apart from just trying to wax humorous about it, was also to show that it, again, like, you know, it's the show trying to make Askeladd look good, when in reality it shouldn't be trying to, you know, pull us further away from Thorfinn's perspective. Like, I think it works only, or rather mostly, if you put it back its original position chronologically as it was in the manga.
I see.
I wasn't like complaining. I wasn't complaining about the idea of problematic characters in general. I'm complaining about the show,
the arc of
fucking
the,
up.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yes.
So, I guess we will ultimately see. This would be interesting to revisit later because I wonder if, if at the end of Askeladd's journey, if we see, oh, I understand now why the author did this, because they wanted to humanize him at this point more toward the back half of his journey than the beginning. Maybe it was that. Maybe it was like, so the arc as it would be in the manga, I guess, is you see him and you think he's pretty cool, and then it's all totally downhill and there's no more kind of integration with like the rest of his positive characteristics or whatever. Whereas, like you said, this time it kind of goes down and then up again. Maybe, let's wait and see, I guess, and we'll see like, well, this was a good kind of reworking of the arc, but no, okay. I see where you're coming from now. It's a misunderstanding on my part. I thought you were talking about problematic characters in general. I was like,
oh god,
hang on a minute.
come on. I think, like, come on, like, Griffith's a shithead, but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy even without the knowledge, like, of what he does at the end of the Golden Age arc, like, as I didn't. I didn't know, but I mean, we discussed this in the cast where I was like, even though I knew what was going on, like, or what would happen and where it would end and how what wretch it would be, I still couldn't help but feel compelled to get behind him.
Yeah,
and that's intentional on Berserk's part. Berserk's part, even if you know that Griffith is going to do the awful shit, still works to get you behind him because it kind of also makes you realize how all the other characters are suckered into his charisma as well. Whereas, as I say, in Vinland's case, the order of events as presented in the manga have been changed around, and that to me is not for the show's betterment. I think it actually makes it worse.
Okay. Remember Berserk? Remember how good Berserk was?
I'm gonna rewatch that at some point.
God, I'm just thinking about like the music, like the chord, like do 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 like do, and like just like Griffith hanging out, people looking at him, being like, "Oh my god, he's so fucking cool."
Exactly.
God, that show, man, it's so good. But okay, what is your next? What's your next discussion point for Vinland 8?
All right, so let's talk about the duel and let's talk about how it concludes it, because I think that I'm going to put this as a poll again, folks. But I'll just ask you, Doc, if Askeladd hadn't, recognized that he could push Thorfinn's buttons so hard that he would cause him to lose his shit, and basically pull the first Zorro movie equivalent of like never give in to anger, like
right,
because that's really what it was. But if he hadn't done that, do you reckon Thorfinn would have beaten him and killed him there and then? I'm of the opinion he would have.
Yeah, I think that there's enough of a probability. I mean, and it's clear Askeladd thought that there was a good enough chance of that happening that he needed to do something. So yes,
exactly. So Askeladd says to him, you need to not take things so seriously. Paraphrase, don't get too worked up. And I think this is actually a really, really interesting kind of catch-22. Because the moment that Thorfinn loses his emotional connection to his father and the whole reason for doing this in the first place, I think that, if he loses that and kills Askeladd, then that's him done for. That's his heart completely hollowed out. So I'm really, really fascinated by this, because I think in that kind of way, Thorfinn can't give that up. He can't not approach this in some way with a certain amount of anger and emotion towards it. Maybe he needs to control it ultimately. Maybe it's not a catch-22 after all. But I did find it interesting to think about that, he doesn't want to give that up. He doesn't want to become a soulless murdering machine. It's like that old adage, what does the hunter do once the hunt is over? And indeed, I think that's what Vinland is going to be tackling with the whole idea of Vinland as a concept, if not the actual place later. But yeah, Askeladd pushing his buttons like that. Fine way to end the fight, but I have to wonder, ultimately, will Thorfinn get his revenge in the end, and will it cost him dearly to do so? Because it will require him to ultimately, disconnect himself from the pain he feels of his father's death and the fact that he cared about his. I mean, we have a very clear example in this episode that his father still means quite a lot to him, even after all these years.
Yeah, I think in this vein, I think Horde's introduction of the story is probably pretty important.
Well, bear in mind, she's not the first slave we've seen in this story. Cast your mind back to
to the first episode. But I think she will be... I project that she will... Like, her relationship with Thorfinn will be... That's something else that he needs to care about and focus on in his life, so that the revenge won't be everything. So that when either he kills Askeladd or someone else kills Askeladd, that he won't be totally abandoned and feel completely empty. Like, I think by that point their relationship will have advanced.
Man, can you imagine if Askeladd and Thorfinn are just chatting on a boat when they're doing a fight somewhere, and like Thorfinn's like, you will duel me again, you prick, and Askeladd's like, look, right, you little shit, I ain't got time for
unseen sniper. Yeah,
he just gets killed by a nobody.
Uh-huh.
Oh man, that'd be something, wouldn't it? It'd be shocking.
It would,
but it would also be a great way of, like, exploring Thorfinn's reactions to that his revenge has been denied him, and now what? What can he do now?
He needs something else, because this can't be everything for him forever,
Yeah. Well, the thing is, right, as much as he was describing Vinland to Horde, he was also, in theory, I'd argue, describing it to himself, because that's the first time we've heard him speak about it, since it was, like, right. Well, since his father's death. So he's woke that back up in him.
To a slave, again. Yes, in the first episode, when Thor's, talked to him, and then here's another slave. Wow, yeah, that's a nice parallel, whatever the right word is, callback, I don't know, but revisiting this. Yeah, that's cool. That's super cool. Did you have anything else on that, or?
No, I just thought it was really interesting to observe that, like, Thorfinn's journey now, in order to finally take on Askeladd, if even that happens again, like, is he going to go so far as to completely disconnect himself from his father and just completely lose all sense of himself? Because that's the thing that drives him, and in order for him to Askeladd and not be taunted by it, he has to, like, not feel that anymore? Or will that be something he can overcome in time? Because he's now being able to grieve. Like, we'll find out undoubtedly, but yeah, like, it's not so simple as presented that he just simply needs to not get worked up, because him losing that emotion, that fury, I would argue, does come with a cost. It pushes him closer to becoming more of, like, a mindless, violent thug, I'd say.
Huh. Okay. Maybe there's a way to keep the grief without the rage, like
possibly.
Maybe it's like move to the next phase of letting go would be the idea. Like maybe Horde can kind of bring some light and softness, such that he can do that. Maybe we're totally speculating.
Yeah. Well, go on.
Oh no, I was going to change the subject, but you first.
Well, I've got another talking point, but it can come after in a bit. It's just kind of related to you talk about Horde and Thorfinn on the boat, but we'll come back to that in a moment.
Okay. Well, mine will touch on that too, because that conversation they have is what I want to talk about mainly, and also the one Askeladd's kind of interactions and thoughts about Uncle Gorm, when we sort of keep coming back to 2 or 3 different times this episode this idea of master and slave, and Askeladd says that everybody is a slave to something. Now, certain master-slave relationships really bother people. Like, Askeladd looks down at Gorm because he's enslaved to wealth. He doesn't feel like that's a worthy master. Whereas the boy who is talking to Askeladd feels like, he says, if I didn't have my pride to live for, I'd kill myself. So obviously, in Askeladdian terms, He thinks that pride and honor are worthy masters. And
if I may make two observations just to follow what you just said there.
Okay.
That kid, I don't know what his name is, but I'm just going to call him Ari 2.0 because he is the same character. Yeah. He is the same. He has the same reaction to Askeladd. Like, I'm going to go out on pillage with Askeladd. It's going to be great. Just the same as Ari did when Thors was setting off for war. So even then, context may change and all that, but human behavior does not. And human reactions to, like, the promise of war and plunder do not either. Even though that guy looks like he's barely capable of understanding, pointy head goes in person, I'll stab them here. Like, that obviously works.
Send him to make war on an anthill.
Yeah. And the second thing I'll note, and this is a kind of small detail, is that when Horda drops her stuff to the floor, like her food, when she's going through the hall, and Gorm starts going up and whipping her, when she falls, we already see that she's got numerous scuff marks all over her. She's clearly been beaten half to death previously. And I wonder if Askeladd's observation about like him being useless as a slave owner is because he's actually treating her too harshly.
Yes.
Yeah, like, and I'm not saying as in like, he's saying he should be good about it, but rather he should be optimal about it, which is a key difference. And this is also starting to tread hilariously into Shield Hero territory for that show.
God.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah, he clearly believes that he's a bad owner, that he's really in the wrong about managing her, because he has been able to manage his own little doggy, Thorfinn, right? And been able to use him in ways that benefited his whole crew.
Well, when you say that, we obviously can't predict if the events would have changed to turn out exactly the same, but Thorfinn does actually save Askeladd's life in one battle that we saw in one of the previous episodes. Now, again, can't say they would turn out exactly the same without Thorfinn's inclusion, but, well, I think that's pretty clear, indictment of Askeladd saying, hey, you know what, slavery, I don't actually need to have a proper leash or own him as property. I can use him optimally to get shit I want done.
Yep. Yeah. So saved Askeladd's life while trying to get the head of someone so he could officially kill Askeladd. Again, very ironic.
May I pose a theory or a thesis statement for you? Something to consider as not right now, but as the show continues. Is Thorfinn being, is what I presume will be his gradual, infatuation with the idea of Vinland in itself a kind of slavery?
That's really interesting. Because, I mean, right now...
we know what he's currently enslaved to right now, which is his revenge.
Yeah. And he has no idea, which I think is the interesting part, that, the fact that Horda... Horde mode comes up and says, we're the same. They're not... he doesn't have any marks or chains. They're not from the same...
Carl's dead again.
Okay, I'm...
Oh, I don't know, you're back now. Sorry, you slowed down and then sped back up again. I think you got King Crimson.
Amazing. That's great. There's no similarity, really, apart from their blonde hair. Apart from a kind of metaphysical one that she can sense, right? That, she believes that they're alike because he just has that aura about him that he is enslaved to something. And he doesn't see the chains, right? He believes he's making his own decisions. I can eat where I want. I can do what I want. I can kill Askeladd if I want to. But, he doesn't see that, Askeladd is manipulating him because he knows that he's really enslaved to, his revenge and the sense of honor he has. And,
this is also why just to add, this is also why Askeladd doesn't kill him in the duel.
Yes.
Because he's still useful.
Why would you? Yeah, exactly. I mean, you still get more mileage out of this. Keep it going. But
if I may just add something just at this point, just in case people are curious. If you did listen to the Shield Hero discussion that I did, where I went on a very long screed about how Naofumi is a complete wanker and, there's no justification for what he did. As I mentioned in that particular discussion, I don't personally have a problem with pretty much any topic being discussed, period, as part of fiction. Simply the inclusion thereof. like the act of simply writing a story about slavery is not a bad thing. It can't be. It's in a vacuum. It's a concept thing. Like if I said that story's about slavery, that alone doesn't make it good or bad. It's what you do with it that's important. So I obviously went on quite a long screed about why Shield Hero's inclusion of it was a bag of shit for various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
In Vinland, we have the opposite, where its inclusion is purposeful, it's thoughtful, it's certainly not coming down as approving of it, but it also is not just simply about like the purely mechanistic acts of owning people as property, but also the more philosophical idea of being enslaved to a concept or a need or a want or a desire. But it mingles those two together really well as parallels. Indeed, that's why that entire conversation between Horder and Thorfinn exists on the boat in the first place, because we can see just by looking at it, Thorfinn says he's not a slave, and here is an actual person who's owned as property. But for all that is a difference between them, the two are functionally identical.
Yep, exactly.
So there you go. So yeah, this is if you want an example of where this is done well as opposed to that turgid piece of shit, here it is.
Oh man, yeah. And so I think we're back again to this thing we've been talking about that we were talking about in the early episodes, that kind of finding kind of real freedom beyond, I can choose where I want to eat. I can choose.
I can go to Appleseeds or White Castle, wherever I want.
Yeah, like finding kind of the inner existential freedom from, either from everything that kind of binds you, or the freedom to be able to kind of pick the thing that you want to be your master, the thing that binds you. This is where I have thought that the story was kind of leading up to, that will someone be able to like rise above the kind of machine of war and suffering and revenge and hate to do that. So yeah,
absolutely,
it's a good episode, good stuff.
All right. One other thing I want to note about the scene between, or rather, even not before Horder arrives, but I know it's going to sound like a strange tangent here, but trust me, I'm going somewhere with this.
Okay.
Let's talk about Batman briefly.
Okay, let's talk about Batman.
No. Thorfinn. Sorry.
Tell all your friends about me.
I'm Thorfinn.
Yes.
Sorry. All right, so I'm not going to... Like, when I say Batman, I'm actually referring specifically to a film with Batman in it, of course. Arguably the best Batman film ever made.
Avengers Endgame.
No. Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
Yeah.
Why am I bringing this up specifically? I mean, by the way, expect that film to be covered by me solo at some point in the future, because it is a work of art. And there's so much that needs to be solved. But I'm going to mention one specific scene from that episode that I think is key, actually, if you relate it to Vinland Saga and understanding just what's happened to Thorfinn. So there's a scene in that particular film where Bruce Wayne, as an adult, goes up to his parents' grave. And it's a dark and stormy night, as the Batman animated series as best it was wont to be. Flash of lightning strikes across the scene, and the actual headstone of the grave is illuminated. And what's really interesting about that is it just says Wayne on it. It doesn't say, there's the flash of light in Doc's case, like now he's in the Batman animated series
That's
episode.
Right.
But the reason that's really fascinating and really telling is that it doesn't say like Thomas and Martha Wayne or whatever the fuck their names were, it just says Wayne. Because I would argue, at least as presented in that series, it wasn't two people that died that day, it was three.
Right.
And Bruce is certainly there, but he's not like, the regular normal human being he would have been otherwise. He's incredibly damaged, and indeed that film goes to great lengths to explain and show that, and how he is denied normal life. But I'll save the rest of that for a podcast I'll be doing in the future. Just look forward to that. So why is this in any way relevant to Vinland Saga, you might ask? Well, bear in mind that during that particular scene when Thorfinn has that vision of his father, he reverts back to being a young child.
Mm-hmm.
And I would argue that that is probably who he is still mentally at that particular point. He's never gotten beyond that stage.
Agree.
Physically, he is older. He, is hit past puberty, he's speaking a deeper voice. He can murder the fuck out of people, all that. but he is still very much the child he once was. That's when the day, like Bruce, what happened with Bruce, he died too when his dad.
Mm-hmm.
He stops, like, his clock, his world clock, his life stopped dead then, shattered, frozen in time. Now, ultimately, like, you know, whatever interpretation of Batman you want to rely on, like, it's like, generally speaking, he never gets out of that rut. He stays Batman forever. When in reality, as the Mask of the Phantasm film almost has him do, he almost breaks free. He almost becomes a regular human being again. And I find this really interesting that I wonder if at some point we'll see Thorfinn truly, like, become a regular person again. Not to the extent that, you know, he can simply pick up as if though nothing had ever happened. I mean, the events of his life thus far have definitely scarred him. No, I'm not talking about physically here. But I think that scene is very telling in illuminating just what has happened to him, that he's frozen that point in time emotionally and mentally. Well, maybe not mentally necessarily, but certainly, like, you know, in his growth as a person. He's been denied the ability to become a regular, normal person like everyone else we've seen in these particular episodes, who just go about the normal day-to-day lives. And I think that's the idea that Vinland Saga is going to try and, again, explore. Like, can he break free of that to live a regular life? Mm-hmm. In the Mask of the Phantasm, that escape avenue was the character of Andrea Beaumont, Bruce's romantic interest at the time, and even fiancée at one point. That's how close, in a very literal sense, he got to breaking. But unfortunately, he was already married just to a concept rather than a person. Mm. And so, yeah, I found that very reminiscent of that, and also extremely powerful as well for the reasons that you've stated. And also, of course, the fact that he is just merging his father's words together. Like, there's nothing new to be gained here from what's been... We're not really told anything new from Thor's end. But, well, he's got his words slipped by now, and indeed one may wonder that the memory... In fact, we know for a fact that that's the case, because there's brief intermission flashback of, like, Thor's and then the hut, and then also Leaf briefly, if I remember correctly. So that memory of him is also then what leads him to remember the concept of Vinland, which he relates to Hornet. So yeah, I thought that was a really powerful moment and really gave us a good understanding without being like heavy exposition, like, well, Bjorn's there, like, you know, like, well, Thorfinn is still the small child he once was. He has not grown up since the time his father died, and who can blame him? It's quite difficult.
His inner growth is stunted, though a man he may be on the outside.
Yes, indeed. Also, no, I won't have the lamb breast. I would actually prefer a mushroom risotto, please.
Oh, man. I feel like that makes me even more confident in my theory that Horda will be, you know, Andrea Beaumont. Like, she'll be...
Ooh, I have another talking point that I need to make about her, but I'll come to that in a moment. Carry on.
Well, she, like you say, like, the world that she comes from is not the world of war. It's much more of an ordinary kind of world concerned with different things. For, like, the clothes she wears and her manner, you can kind of tell. And so she just has all these... We'll have these different expectations, and I just feel like that the show... I just think that my hunch is that it will go in that direction, that she will help him, as I said before, kind of soften and break free and find kind of a new path, or at least start to, because he's going to have to, or he's just cruising towards, like, self-destruction, really. Mm-hmm.
Are you basically saying, no, there's too many jokes, I'm going to restrain myself. Zip. Okay, you can think on that for later. So I have one more talking point. Unfortunately, this is the point where I must get nitpicky and complaining. I'm afraid I must get complaining again about this episode, because it's not perfect. I'm going to start... There are two things I want to complain about, and the first one I talk about is visual fidelity. The duel itself looked fine, but the characters in the background are permanently frozen, and it is the most distracting fucking thing ever. You've got literally a character who's there, like, it's like, woo!
It's like the racing crowd in first-gen Xbox games. Just
I've seen better, yeah, exactly. I've seen better background character usage in a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. I mean, this is not like, you know, a cheap production by any means. I was a bit surprised just to see, like, characters, like, just completely frozen in time during that. It really didn't do it for me. I mean, there's been some kind of wonky CG previously, but this is the 2D element. It was kind of a letdown, especially when we got, like, a good solid 10 seconds or so of, like, Bjorn talking his ass, like, go pick him up. and the characters in the background are completely frozen stiff as if though they've just been hit by Zawado. So that, yeah, not great. But the other complaint I want to make, and this is more of a writing-based one. So we've talked a lot about Horda. I don't really have a good grasp on who she is right now. She feels very flat as a character. She feels, I mean, you and I discussed, like, what was her name again? Kasai from Given? And you said she's not Kasai. She isn't, but I at least had a sense of Kasai having a personality and wants and desires. Like, Horda is very flat here. I can't get a grasp on who she is. Like, she doesn't seem bothered at all by the fact that she's now in this awful place she's in. And maybe you could argue, well, we don't know enough about her yet, but this is our introductory episode to her, and she's clearly already had, like, a role to play in talking with Thorfinn. I would prefer we had some idea of who she was.
Well,
I can't...
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, classic thing to use is the red letter media, older Star Wars reviews, like personality test, which is, can you describe to me, Doc, without saying what she looks like, what she wore, or anything like that, or what her role is, can you describe her to me? So not what she looks like, not what her job is, and not anything to do with her appearance. You need to talk strictly about her personality.
Submissive, quiet, broken.
Where'd you get broken from? I didn't get that.
Well, I mean, she's like just kind of hanging out, getting beaten on, not putting up a fight, feels listless, staring, like, hey, woman, bring the mead. Woman, I said bring the mead. Whack, like, it just feels like she's kind of floating through, and it feels like she's and we've had her on screen for like a total of like 5 minutes, but it feels like she's either had her spirit broken or she's like kind of stuffing it deep down so that Gorm can't touch it.
I don't know.
This is what I got from her, and I think the show is gonna. I mean, like I said, she's been on screen for 5 minutes. But I think, I feel like the show has big plans for it. Knowing nothing about what's going to happen, it feels like the path of least resistance to get where we need to go with Thorfinn.
I hear you, and certainly your mileage to vary on like the way you interpret it. But for me, like, I didn't have much to go from. Like, the voice acting for her felt very flat.
Isn't that interesting though? Like, what if that's intentional? Like, you wouldn't expect someone to feel that way, but like it's almost like she feels like she's above it all because she used to be a noble, and she's like, you know what I mean?
I would agree with you if I had a time frame for how long she's been under, Gorm's, like,
that's fair,
under his control. I don't know, like, I just think that some of these details could have been established earlier so we have a good sense of, because clearly it's a very pivotal scene between her and Thorfinn at the end. But again, like we made the joke about Kasai, like, I feel you could have replaced her with Dog. Like, bark, like, and he's like, where do you want to go, boy? Do you want to go somewhere else to wide, far away lands? And then he's like, oh yeah, Vinland.
Oh, I don't agree. That's hard.
I don't know, like, I wish that there was a stronger impression made of, her at the start rather than just simply her being very flat. And you might say that is a strong impression, but we need more signifiers surrounding that then to help build on that, because her herself is not giving us that much to work with.
Yeah. I mean, I see where you're coming from, but I'll agree to disagree. I mean, I'm not saying like she's like this amazing, fully fleshed out character yet, but I felt like there was just enough for me to not only want to find out more, but feel like, because she's kind of a mystery. She's pretty freaking mysterious in some ways, like why she behaves the way she does, but also to feel like, okay, she's gonna play a part.
For sure. I mean, yep, we've still got more episodes to go, so we'll see how she progresses there. To answer your question there, Felix, like, I understand, like, that the studio has been overworked. I mean, fair enough. It's not an easy thing. It's very easy for me as someone who can't draw shit, basically, to criticize this stuff and go, it looks terrible and all that. But I suppose the counter argument I would make is, if you can't convincingly do that, don't have a crowd be there at all. Just have Gorm and Bjorn and that kid.
Maybe they'll fix it for the Blu-rays. They'll fix it in post.
Oh god, they'll turn into the civilians from Carmageddon.
What?
They'll have that level of fidelity.
Carmageddon. God. The only other talking point I had is that I just wanted to highlight again how freaking interesting I find that Bjorn and Askeladd during the duel act like Thorfinn's proud parents. It's crazy. It's so
my
cool.
boy grows up so quickly.
Yeah, he's like, have you gotten taller? You used to be this high. And Bjorn is all ha, he's good. Yeah, that's my boy. You could hear him in his head saying, that's my boy. And wanting him to bummed out when Thorfinn gets manipulated, damn it, he fell for the trick again. Askeladd made fun of his dad, and he's gonna lose. I thought wow, that is so interesting how they feel. I love that because it's weird, it's really messy and complicated. I mean, it's very are we supposed to get behind this? If I don't know. I mean, clearly Thorfinn hates them, but clearly they've been watching him kind of grow up and have. I don't know. Certainly Bjorn, it almost felt like he had kind of a fondness for the kid, despite the fact that Askeladd is clearly just using him,
and despite the fact that Bjorn himself actually took him hostage and would have used him. But well, it's been several years, so who can say how things change? But yeah. We'll see. Although I'm actually curious now as to why Thorfinn doesn't feel the need to kill Bjorn as well, because he's got in the pie chart of who's to blame for Thor's death, Bjorn's got a severe chunk of mushroom pie there that needs to be dealt with.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Yep. Let's use the top of this toadstool to make a pie chart.
Do you have any more talking points, because we do have a Patreon question?
No, let's get to our question.
All right. So this one comes from Blikaji, and it goes thusly, and this is a great question. I love it. Would Bjorn win a fight against a bear? Let's start that again. Well, that's getting clips out of context. Not that it would have helped in context. Would Bjorn win a fight against a bear, which is also Bjorn, that's what Bjorn stands for? And if so, what would he then do with the corpse? Now, I actually have two answers for this, because I have the answer to your question, but I also have my headcanon answer of what I reckon Bjorn would do or what I'd love to see him do. So the headcanon answer I'm going to give is that he would win, but all he would do is he would use it the corpse. He wouldn't do anything with the corpse, he wouldn't eat the meat from it, for example. He would probably taste test it, this isn't a mushroom. What the fuck? I can't eat this. But I reckon he would probably use it as a giant tea cozy for a giant mushroom. That's what I reckon he would do with it, after skinning the pelt. But I did say I had a second answer, which is this, right? And this came into my head and I thought, this is the most metal fucking thing ever. Imagine if he managed to tame the bear and then rode it into battle.
Oh my god.
Would that not be the most incredible?
Can you ride a bear? Is it possible?
Doesn't matter. I can just totally see him ride a bear and into battle after eating, a mushroom. I would. Oh my god.
What if they put armor on it and
so
they trained it?
It'd be some of his dark material shit then.
I know. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yorick Bjornsson.
Right?
Yeah. Either rode him that or had him stand beside Bjorn in battle. The only answer I had to this question was that he would turn it into he would win and just turn it into compost for a mushroom garden.
Yeah, also fair point. He would definitely not eat a single shred of it.
No.
If Bjorn was living in modern day, I reckon that what he'd do is he'd have a cereal bowl, but it would just be full of mushrooms and milk.
Oh, that's disgusting. That's awful. No one on Earth would eat that. That's terrible.
Bjorn's a mushroom guy. Like,
He would never, not even he would mix it with milk and spoon it. That is disgusting.
okay, he doesn't want to ruin the mushrooms with milk.
I suppose those two things do go into like cream of mushroom soup, but still there's so many other steps involved.
Oh, I can totally see like everyone drinking cans of beer and he's just there like crushing the can of mushroom soup and drinking that. I think that's my headcanon at this point. Is Bjorn eats nothing else. In fact, we don't even see him at the feast later on. So we could very well like. Oh no, we do. I think.
Yeah.
But I don't think.
I think he tells the kid that what's his face is on the boat.
Yeah.
Or something.
Oh, by the way, just to follow up again from what I said earlier, not only was the duel like very stiff with the background characters, but when Horder is like, getting whipped by Gorm, not one of the characters around them move at all. And I'd be fine with that, like being like them being indifferent if they at least were just still being animators doing like their regular eating and drinking. But they just kind of freeze in time and space.
Oh, it's more of the budgetary or time constraint thing.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. But honestly, that kind of stuff is minor. It doesn't. I mean, the duel itself was well animated. Don't get me wrong, and their incidental background noise. I mean, it would be more of a problem if like Gorm was like only 2 frames, like doop and then doop, repeated over and over for the whipping. Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, that's my answer to your question, Ellen Kaji. My legitimate answer is, as you say, he would use it in some way to help cultivate mushrooms. My answer that I wish would be a thing, and again, if you happen to have any fan artists listening to this who want to spend some time doing it, just please draw Bjorn riding a bear.
Yukinon, get on it.
He's not watching Vinland, unfortunately, so he won't catch that.
Sad face.
Rip. Anyway, but yeah, thank you very much for providing that question, Linkaji. Mm-hmm. If anyone who is catching this live or on board is interested in asking us questions about Vinland Saga, that is one of the perks of becoming a patron for Warui Deshou, so please feel free to check that out. Get yourself your Discord access, for as little as $2 a month. You can then ask us questions for the stream, and there's plenty of other cool benefits as well to doing so definitely check that out.
Yes, indeed. And I guess now is time for us to rate the episode and check in on the new Twitter polls. Would you like to?
That we should.
Should we check in on Twitter first, or should we rate the episode first?
Twitter could happen because this will only be brief. But so the first one I asked was: does Vinland Saga's message of war being a cruel, consuming force used for expansionist reasons and its opposition thereof fall a bit flat due to its basis in real-world history and the events that follow in actual history? We only had 2 votes thus far, and they've both been no. So, guess I'm just being old man yells at cloud, I suppose. But I'm okay with that. I'm entirely alright with that. And then, interestingly, had Askeladd not taunted him, would Thorfinn have won the duel against Askeladd and killed him? We've only had 2 votes on that so far as well, but both of them are no. He would have still lost. Curious.
Interesting.
Very
Fair
enough then.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you haven't already checked out those polls, feel free to do so on our Twitter at Warui Deshou and offer your thoughts upon that. We'll be running until next week when we'll be covering Vinland episode 9.
Yes, indeed. So ratings-wise, I would rate this episode much higher than last time. The visual sort of snafus that you mentioned, like I didn't even notice. Like, I'm that Mark. I am the Mark that they are like, yeah, if we like jingle the keys in the middle of the screen, he won't look all around where everything's flat. That was me. So I didn't even notice them, and I'm not typically bothered by those things. Although, I mean, who knows when I rewatch. But the story content and everything in this episode was good enough. The themes were strong enough that I'm going to give this episode 4.75 stars out of 5. Stars, not stars. We got to do something other than stars because it's fucking 4.75. What is a good object that we can use? 4.75 ghosts of your father out of 5.
Yeah, which I feel bad for the last ghost. He's only 3/4 full. That's unfortunate. Is
And
that the head or the
headless
legs?
ghost? It's the headless ghost. It must be.
God damn it, Doc. God damn it. All right. For me, like, while I did complain earlier about the potential issue of the macro level story and examination of Vinland Saga falling a bit flat or not being, as effective as it could be given its real world historical anchoring, that doesn't mean it wasn't effective in the context of the episode itself, and it wasn't executed effectively. It certainly was. I think it's just more of a wider issue thing that as a result of it. So don't get me wrong on that point. So that was good. The micro level stuff of Thorfinn and the introduction of her, like, as much as I felt she came in a bit flat, I again also felt that was handled really well. A lot, certainly, as we've discussed, to divine and interpret from the events of the episode. And I'm really curious to see what happens next. The animation quibbles were only really minor. They were just background stuff, really. Let's be honest. It's not worth getting too worked up about. So, for me, I will give this episode 4.25 instances of Viking food porn out of 5. Because, by God, that plate of sausages made me hungry.
It was really good. I'm glad I watched this episode before and not after lunch.
Well, are you going to get a giant plate of sausages now as well? Cartoon sausages, no less.
Yes, that's my dinner. Cartoon sausages.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Genius.
I think that's going to wrap up V8. Vinland
The
Saga.
Ocho.
Yeah, V8 the Ocho here. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Thank you.
Felix and Blinkaji and any others that were silent for hanging out with us on Twitch. We know it's going to take some getting used to just to find us in this spot. So thanks for coming on board. And if you're watching on VOD later on, thank you for doing that. Be it on YouTube, Twitch, wherever. Podcasts, we appreciate it. All of our lovely patrons, we love you. Thank you for supporting us. And for we hope the extra content that we are giving you on patreon.com/Warui Deshou is to your liking. We will continue to do that for you. Please follow us on Twitter to be notified of such things as we're only streaming on Twitch right now, or there's a new piece of content up from Shadon, etc., at Warui Deshou.
No bother. Yeah, that'll be out soon. In case you're aware, folks, I am currently covering Akiken as part of or Akikan. I don't care how it's pronounced. Fuck that show and fuck everyone involved in its creation, even the people I like from it. But I am currently writing up a audio essay on that, which will be out this week, I believe, actually. So yeah, if you want to get on that early, because it will be Patreon only for quite a fair bit, then, well, you know where to go.
It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. So.
I get very angry in that.
Well worth the $3, in my opinion. If you'd like to have us on the go in your MP3 device, SoundCloud or Apple Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, we're on all those places. You can look up Warui Deshou, find us, subscribe, leave a kind review on the old Apple Podcast. Look, I know not a lot of people use Apple Podcasts these days. The podcast player space has diversified much more. But let me tell you, leaving us reviews on Apple Pods /iTunes still helps us out a lot.
Absolutely.
It totally enhances our discoverability and all that sort of thing. So even if you can't, feel like you can or want to support us financially, we totally understand. That's a nice way to support us for free if you feel so inclined. All right. Gobbledygook, doodly-doo out of the way. Now, only remains for us to say our thanks once again and embrace each other, everyone, to the ends of the universe.
Good night.